The table was already set when I arrived. Everything looked perfect. Soft lighting, polished plates, carefully arranged chairs, the kind of setting that was meant to impress, quietly, without trying too hard. It wasn't my first time there, but something about that night felt different. I paused at the entrance for a second, taking it all in. The low hum of conversation, the controlled laughter, the sense that everyone already knew exactly how the evening would go. Everyone except me. "You made it," he said, walking toward me with that same confident smile. The one that always made everything feel certain. Or at least, it used to. "I did," I replied, studying him for just a moment longer than usual. There was something in his expression. Not nervous, not uncertain, just relaxed. Too relaxed. Like he already knew something I didn't. "Come in," he said, gesturing toward the table. "Everyone's been waiting." I stepped inside. The room shifted slightly as I entered, subtle glances, quick assessments, polite smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes. They had already formed their opinions. I could feel it. I always could. I took my seat, the chair placed just slightly off from the center. Not intentionally, maybe, but not accidentally either. Conversations resumed. Light. Controlled. Safe. "So," someone said across the table, looking at me with a polite smile, "we've heard a lot about you." I nodded slightly. Hopefully good things. A few soft laughs. Not warm, not welcoming, just measured. "Oh, definitely interesting," another voice added. That word, interesting, it always meant something else. Before I could respond, he leaned back in his chair, completely at ease. "Yeah," he said casually, "there's a lot to explain." Something in his tone made me pause. Not the words, the way he said them. Like he was setting something up. Like he was enjoying it. I kept my expression neutral. Because reacting too early would only make it worse. The conversation continued for a few minutes, moving through safe topics. Work, plans, future expectations. All the things people discuss when they want to present a certain image. And then, it happened, not with tension, not with hesitation, just casually, like it was nothing. "So where do you see this going?" someone asked him, glancing between us. A simple question, one that should have had a simple answer. He smiled, that same calm, confident smile. And then he said it. "Well," he began, leaning slightly forward, "it's a bit complicated." A small pause, just enough to draw attention. And then, "She's kind of my other wife." The words didn't sound loud, but they hit like they were. For a second, I thought I misheard. The room didn't react immediately. Because no one expected it. No one expected him to say something like that so casually. So comfortably. Then, a few laughs. Light. Confused. Testing the tone. Was it a joke? Was it serious? I didn't move. Didn't react. Didn't even blink. Because in that moment, everything slowed down. "What?" someone asked, half laughing. He shrugged slightly, like it wasn't a big deal. "You know," he continued, still smiling, not officially. But close enough. More laughter. This time louder. More confident. Because now they thought they understood the joke. Now they thought they were in on it. I looked at him, waiting, not for an explanation, for confirmation, but he didn't look at me. Not directly, not properly, just a quick glance, like I wasn't the focus. Like I wasn't the one being talked about. That told me everything. This wasn't a joke. Not really. It was a reveal. Just not for me. "For real?" someone pressed, leaning forward. He laughed lightly. "Let's just say, things aren't exactly traditional." The room reacted again. Amusement, curiosity, judgment, all mixed together. And still, no one stopped him. No one questioned it seriously. Because for them, it was entertainment. For me, it was clarity. I felt something settle inside me. Not anger, not embarrassment. Something quieter, something sharper. Understanding. I picked up my glass slowly, taking a small sip. Calm, controlled. Because this moment wasn't about reacting. It was about seeing. Seeing exactly who he was. seeing exactly what this was. And most importantly, seeing what I needed to do next. You don't mind, right? He said suddenly, finally looking at me. The question wasn't serious. It wasn't concerned. It was performative, designed for the room, designed to make it seem like everything was fine. I met his eyes, for a brief second, long enough for him to realize something had changed. I don't mind, I said. And that was the truth. Because in that moment, I didn't feel anything he expected me to feel. No shock, no hurt, no need to defend myself. Just clarity. The conversation moved on, or at least, it tried to. But the tone had shifted. Not for them, for me, because now I understood something they didn't. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a joke taken too far. This was intentional, calculated, and more importantly, it wasn't new. This had been building, hidden behind smiles, covered by excuses, ignored because I chose to trust. That ended tonight. I leaned back slightly, letting the noise of the room fade into the background. And for the first time that evening, I stopped trying to belong there. Because I didn't need to. Not anymore. I glanced at him one last time. At the confidence. At the control he thought he had. At the version of reality he had just created for everyone at that table. And I realized something simple. He thought he was exposing me. But he had no idea. He had just exposed himself. I set my glass down gently. And said nothing else. Because sometimes, the most powerful moment isn't when you speak. It's when you decide exactly when you will. And I wasn't done yet. Not even close. It lingered. Soft at first, then fading into something more controlled. Like everyone was trying to decide how seriously they should take what had just been said. I didn't help them. I didn't correct him. I didn't react. Because the moment didn't belong to him anymore. It belonged to me. I let the silence settle around me slowly, like a space I was choosing instead of avoiding. "You're really okay with that?" someone asked, glancing at me carefully now. Not joking anymore. Not completely. I turned my head slightly, meeting their eyes. "Yes," I said calmly. That answer confused them. I could see it. Because it didn't match what they expected. It didn't match the role he had just tried to place me in. Across the table, he shifted slightly in his seat. Just a small movement, but enough. Because for the first time that night, he wasn't fully in control of the moment anymore. "See," he said quickly, trying to recover the tone. "She gets it." I almost smiled. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. "Of course I do," I replied. My voice didn't rise, didn't sharpen. It stayed exactly where it was. Calm, clear, and that changed everything. The room grew quieter, not completely silent, but aware that something had shifted. "Then explain it," someone said, leaning forward slightly. "Because I don't think anyone else does." That was it. The moment. The opening. And this time, I didn't let it pass. I placed my hands lightly on the table, steady and composed. "There's nothing complicated about it," I said. My voice carried just enough to reach everyone without forcing it. "He's right." A pause. Small. Sharp. "He does have another life." That landed. Not as a joke. Not as entertainment. As truth. The kind that doesn't need volume to be heard. The room reacted instantly. Confusion, shifting glances, the first signs of discomfort breaking through the surface. He laughed quickly, too quickly. "Okay, now you're just." I didn't look at him. I didn't need to. He just didn't think I knew about it, I continued. Silence. Heavy now. Real. "What are you talking about?" someone asked, their voice no longer casual. I reached into my bag slowly. No rush. No dramatic movement. Just certainty. I placed my phone on the table and tapped the screen once. A series of messages appeared. Clear. Undeniable. Not loud. But impossible to misunderstand. The kind of evidence that doesn't argue. It ends arguments. "He's been living two versions of his life for a while," I said. No anger. No accusation. Just fact. The room leaned in without realizing it. Drawn in by something they hadn't expected to witness. His confidence disappeared in real time. Not all at once, just piece by piece. "That's not," he started. "It is," I said. Still calm, still controlled. "You just didn't expect me to say it here." That stopped him, completely, because that was the truth. He never expected this moment. Not like this, not in front of everyone. "You said I was your other wife," I continued. "But the reality is, you've been pretending everything is separate." Another pause. Then, "It isn't." The weight of that sentence settled across the table. No laughter, no smiles, just understanding. Slow, uncomfortable, unavoidable. Someone leaned back in their chair, the shift subtle but clear. The room wasn't entertaining him anymore. It was watching him, and he felt it. I picked up my phone again, locking the screen. No need to show more. The truth had already done its job. "You could have said something earlier," someone muttered. I nodded slightly. I could have. Then I looked around the table. At the same people who had laughed. At the same people who had accepted his version without question. "But I wanted to hear how far he'd go," I said. That changed the tone again. Because now, this wasn't just about him. It was about the moment. The choice. The reveal. He leaned forward, his voice lower now. "You're making this into something it's not." I finally looked at him properly. For the first time since he spoke. "No," I said quietly. "You already did that." Silence. Complete. Final. Because there was nothing left to twist. Nothing left to hide. The version of control he thought he had, was gone. Not taken. Revealed. And that's what made it irreversible. I pushed my chair back slowly. No rush. No tension. Just movement. "I think that's enough," I said. No one stopped me. No one tried to fix it. Because some moments don't get fixed. They get remembered. I stood up, adjusting my sleeve slightly, grounding myself in the calm that had replaced everything else. "You can explain it however you want," I added, looking at him one last time. "But the truth doesn't change." He didn't respond. Because he couldn't. Not anymore. I turned and walked toward the door. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. And as I stepped outside, the noise behind me didn't follow. Because there wasn't any. Just silence. The kind that stays long after you leave. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel anything I thought I would. Just clear. Clear enough to understand one thing. Some people don't lose control because someone takes it from them. They lose it because they expose exactly who they are. And once that happens, there's no going back.